Wow. It's super exciting for me to be here with all of you today. How are you feeling? Feeling good? It's new semester, new year, fresh snow on the ground. What's there not to be excited about? So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be here. I know that on this stage, many of my mentors have come up here and have spoken, many great and successful entrepreneurs, so I'm too grateful for this opportunity. And grateful for all of you for being here and taking the time out of your day. My hope, of course, is that you're going to be able to get something out of this lecture today, something that you came here to receive. And I'm going to really talk about 8 lessons that I've learned over the past several years regarding entrepreneurship and what that means to me. Now, of course, there are many more than just 8 lessons, but I got it narrowed down to 8 for this purpose. And as I was thinking about that number 8, it's actually symbolic, and the number 8 represents renewal, or to start anew. And when you think about being an entrepreneur, you think about starting something new and inventing something and taking something that wasn't there before and building and making something from scratch. And so today we're going to be talking about some of those things. I think it's helpful that when I start talking to you about entrepreneurship and what it takes to be an entrepreneur, if you know my backstory, there we go. If you know a little bit about where I've come from to get to where I am today. Today, I own a company called Domega, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I honestly come from a very poor family. Growing up, I didn't have much. And in fact, I moved with my family over 30 times before I was 16 years old. I never started and ended in the same elementary school. And what was interesting about that is when I was in first, second, third grade, I thought that was kind of normal. I thought that all kids did that. It wasn't until I got a little older that I realized that we moved quite a bit. And we did that because my parents worked really, really hard. My dad was a carpenter, and we just kind of moved wherever there was work. So I found myself in Texas, in California, Nevada, Utah, just kind of all over the place. Oh, I do need to mention, I did actually start and end 6th grade in the same school, but we moved 3 times just in the same school district, or same school boundaries. So the 8 little lessons I'll teach you. The first one that I think is required for every successful entrepreneur is to have passion. It doesn't necessarily matter what you're passionate about, but you need to have passion for something and do what it is that you're passionate about. I found out early on that I had a passion for solving problems, recognizing that there was a problem or an issue, and then figuring out, being innovative enough to figure out a solution for the problem. Now, when I was 8, I kind of started to realize that kids would go to school, and in the beginning of the school year, they would show up in new stuff, new shoes, new pants, new shirt, and of course I didn't. I might have a new layer of duct tape on my shoes to get me through the school year, but that's about it for me. And so it started to dawn on me that these kids had nice stuff, and I realized that if I wanted something new, that my parents weren't going to buy it for me. My parents were great, and they taught me how to be resourceful with what I did have, but if I wanted something, I had to go out and earn it. I had to go out and make it happen myself. There wasn't going to be anybody else that did that for me. And so at the age of 8, I got the idea. I noticed a problem in our neighborhood. I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and a lot of the yards around the neighborhood were getting the grass was getting a little long, and it wasn't being mowed. And so I talked to my older brother, who was a whopping 2 years older than me. So he was 10, I was 8, and we had this rickety lawnmower in our backyard that we actually fixed, got it running, and we pushed that lawnmower around the neighborhood, and started knocking on doors asking these old ladies if we could mow their lawn for them for $5 a lawn. And we'd do this every Saturday for the summer in Las Vegas, with 115 degrees outside, mowing these lawns. I'm sure it wasn't a very good job, but we worked hard at it, and we would end up on a Saturday with 20 or 30 bucks in our pockets. I was the treasurer of our little business, so I got to keep all the money, and I got these wads of fives in my pocket, and I loved it. I thought, that's pretty cool, that I can go and solve a problem, and people were willing to pay me, and my brother in this case, to solve that problem. I thought, that's pretty neat. Well, fast forward to age 11, I became a donut salesman, and so that's why I brought the donuts today. You got to enjoy those. I was kind of reminiscing a little bit of my childhood. I thought I should bring donuts for everybody, because for a year or so, I was an independent contractor and went out and sold donuts. And I don't know how my mom ever let me do this. This guy in a white van, no joke, a white van with no windows, would come to my house and pick me up and take me who knows where to sell these donuts. And so we ended up, at the time I was living in Utah, so we'd go to Ogden. He would drop me off somewhere in the middle of Ogden, and I would walk the streets of Ogden in the business sector, and I would sell donuts for 2 or 3 hours in the morning. And we weren't done until we sold out of our donuts, basically. And so I knew that if I wanted to get home, I'd better sell these donuts. I learned how to sell. And what to say and how to convince people early on how to sell. But more important, or how to sell. More importantly, the second lesson that I want to talk to you about today, and that is true for all entrepreneurs. If you talk to anybody that has a successful enterprise, it's the hard work and the work ethic. So early on, I learned, my dad taught me this on Saturday chores. If you're going to do something, do it right the first time, because I found myself, clipping the lawn 2, 3, 4 times until it was to my dad's satisfaction. So I learned how to work hard, right? And it was beyond work. It wasn't just working hard. What I like to call it is diligence. I love the word diligence. I love how it's used in the scriptures. I love how it's used in business and in life. And if you look up the root word for diligence, it actually is a French word that means to serve with love. And so I take it one step further than just hard work and work ethic, and I make it, the lesson is diligence. And for me, a little saying that I came up with is, success is determined by persistent and consistent diligent effort. For me, working hard and being diligent is what it's all about. For me, being diligent is more than just working hard. It's also about serving people. It's about finding those needs out there and helping somebody, and in return, they help you. I love this concept. And I learned early in my life that I may not have been blessed to be the smartest person or the most innovative person, but I was blessed with a strong work ethic and to be diligent and to help other people. And I took to heart the scripture that says, if we first seek to help others, to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, then Heavenly Father will take care of the rest of our needs. I took that to heart. And I've applied that throughout my life in all of the businesses that I've been a part of. And Heavenly Father has kept His word. And so I'm very, very appreciative of that. So that's the second lesson I wanted to talk to you about today. And so as I continued to grow, I sold my donuts, I got a paper route, worked really hard at the paper route, 365 days a year, Christmas morning, 4 a.m., doing papers for many, many years. How many of you, by the way, even know what a paper route is? Okay, good. Back then we had newspapers that people read, it was physical papers. Now we just get on the internet and do it. Times have changed so much. And so growing up, and doing all of these things. Even when I got a little older, when I was a teenager, I got my first job at Smith's bagging groceries when I was 14 years old. Then I worked at a clock store fixing cuckoo clocks, of all things. I don't know how I ended up there, but I just saw these needs out there, and I saw that I could apply what I know and go and do these things and earn a little bit of money to be able to pay for the things that I would like to have at that time. I even started a collection agency with my cousin when I was like 16 years old in Las Vegas, going to really rough neighborhoods, knocking on doors, trying to collect money. Try doing that. That was pretty rough. So I worked my way through high school, and then I actually joined the Army when I was 17 in high school, because I knew that if I really wanted to get somewhere in life, I probably needed to go to college. Nobody in my family had ever been to college, but I knew that doctors made good money, and I wanted to be able to provide well for my family. And I thought, I'm going to be a doctor. That's going to help provide for my family. And I needed to get a way to pay for school, because there's no way I could pay for my school on my own. So I joined the Army. And being in the Army taught me a ton of great things as far as hard work and getting up early and being disciplined and following rules and being obedient and those types of things. I was at Fort Dix, New Jersey in the summertime, very, very hot, but an awesome experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Got back from the Army, and actually that's when I met my wife, when I got back from the Army, and 10 months later I went on my mission. And I went to Chile, Viña del Mar. Do we have any return missionaries here, by chance? Anybody go to Chile on their mission? Yeah. Viña?
Yeah, man.
Yes. Love Viña. All right, great. So I went on my mission, and the reason why I share all of these experiences is because all of these experiences shape who we are and what we become and what we want to do with our lives. And for me, every one of these things I can trace back to what I'm doing today, all of these experiences that led up to this. So my mission was awesome. Taught me so many great things about the principles I've already talked about, being obedient and working hard and sticking to a schedule and meeting people and talking to people and being able to have a conversation and those things. So all of that led me to, I got home from my mission. And by the way, I got engaged the day after I got home. Thanks, babe. We don't say that she waited for me, we say that she dated for me, which is true, but nonetheless, I convinced her to say yes the day after I got home. She was quite shocked. We didn't have that planned. I didn't necessarily have that planned. It just kind of came to me on the airplane flying home. Second thing, be diligent. I'm often asked, so I get home from my mission, and I want to be a doctor, so I can start going to college. And to get into the medical field and pre-med, I thought, I should be an athletic trainer. So I started the athletic training program, and I'm working hard and doing it. It's a ton of fun working with the football players. But I realized I couldn't really support my family. I had these squampus hours, doing this athletic training thing, going to school full time. So how was I going to provide for my family? So I had this idea, I should start some kind of a side business to provide for my family. So that's exactly what I did. I went and I started a coupon card business. It was called Platinum Savings Card. And I would venture to guess that some of your parents bought some of those cards from me and from my little team. I would call businesses, local businesses, and get them to do some kind of a coupon offer, and they would do an offer, and then I would print the cards out and then go sell them. In fact, it became my own little ATM machine. My wife and I, if we wanted to go home to Vegas, I would just go out for a couple hours, sell some cards, come back with $100, and we would have gas money to go to Vegas and back. Or if we needed to pay a bill, I would go sell some cards to pay for that. So that was my first real sort of taste of being an entrepreneur. And I started to really enjoy doing that. I really loved it. I loved the challenge of going every single day and building this card and contacting businesses and then trying to figure out how do I go sell these cards and how do I grow the business. And then I realized, it dawned on me one day, I sort of despised, massaging the 350-pound lineman after practice, the sweaty lineman coming in and touching people. And I realized this medicine thing probably isn't going to be for me. And I loved business so much. I came home one day and said, hey, babe, I want to change majors and I want to go into business, like permanently. And she was very, very supportive. And by the way, that's another thing. If you're married, how many people are married? Okay. If you're going to go into business, it's absolutely essential that you have a very supportive spouse, because you've got a lot of ups and downs, roller coasters. Some months, multiple months in a row, you've got to go home and say, hey, babe, we're not getting a paycheck again this week. And that's happened to us many, many times, where we're putting everything into the company and there's just not enough money there to go around. And so we don't get paid. So there's a lot of upside and there's a lot of downside to being an entrepreneur. But needless to say, she was very supportive. And she said, I want you to be happy and go do what you want to do. And so I changed majors on the spot and switched over to my business major. So that's a quick history of how I sort of became an entrepreneur and started down this path of entrepreneurship and starting these businesses. And so I failed many, many times along the way. My first company I started in 1999, after Platinum Savings Card, my coupon card company. 4 years later, I had grown that to 63 schools that were selling it, elementary schools and junior high schools were selling the card as a fundraiser. The business grew, it was doing great. And then my friend came to me and said, hey, I've got this great idea. We should help people sell homes on the internet. By the way, the internet at that time was fairly new, and everybody was trying to do these .coms. And my friend's like, we can sell homes on the internet and help these people. I said, that's a great idea. I sold my company, my Platinum Savings Card company, and I started Home Sales Connection. And that was an online listing service for sale by owners, people trying to sell their home on their own. And I did that, and it failed miserably. It did not work out. In fact, from day one, I asked my wife, I said, hey, we need some capital for this business. Is it all right if we put a second mortgage on our home and fund this business? And of course, being the very supportive wife that she is, she said, yes, let's do it. But that was after much prayer and consideration. We felt good about this decision of moving ahead and doing this. And then a year later, the company had failed. So we're scratching our heads going, how did that happen? We were so confident in this thing. We thought for sure it was going to work. We put everything into it, all of our life savings, our second mortgage, everything in it, and it failed. Well, long story short, we decided that we were not going to declare bankruptcy. We were going to go figure out how to get this debt paid off, because that's not who we are. And we did. I went to work, which was really hard for an entrepreneur. It's hard after you've owned your own business and been your own boss for so long. It's hard to go back to work for somebody. But that's what I did. I actually went to work for one of our vendors at Home Sales Connection, he sold us a lot of data. He was out there collecting all the for sale by owners out there. So I went to work for him for a year and a half. And 2 years later, we had grown the company from 2,000 clients to 13,000 clients. It was doing really, really well. But all of those clients were saying, hey, you're doing a great job with these for sale by owner leads. These were real estate agents. We also want these expired leads. And so I scratched my head and thought, we can do that. We can innovate that. We can invent that procedure and that system. And I went to the owner with my whole plan of how we're going to do this and make all of this money. And he said, no, I'm satisfied with what we're doing. I don't want to take the risk of doing that. And I thought, well, if we don't do it, somebody's going to figure this out, Finally, I convinced him to let me go and start it myself. And he said, as long as you do it all on your own, you invest your own money, you invest your own time, that's fine. And then we can become affiliates of each other. And so that's what I did, is I went and started a company called the Red X and we became affiliates. I figured it out. We went and invented some new technology to go and get all the expired listings from the MLS and compile all that data. And so that led me to then in 2005 selling that business to my partners and starting a company called FSBO Leader. Because in 2005, my non-compete had expired with my previous company, the one that I'd worked for before. And I wanted to go and create this technology for forced sell-by owners. But my partners in the Red X said, no, you know what, we're satisfied with what we're doing. We'd grown, in 2 years, had grown the Red X to a multi-million-dollar company. It was doing great. And here I was wanting to start new again, start fresh. It's the serial entrepreneur in me. And I went to my wife and said, hey, babe, sound familiar? Hey, babe, I got this idea. I want to do this other thing. And she said, let's do it, of course. So I sold that company to my partners, and I started fresh again, FSBO Leader. And today, FSBO Leader is Domega. And I'll tell you a little bit about Domega here in a second. But here I am. These are a couple of pictures of me. One on the left is me jumping off a bridge. This is a varsity scout outing trip that we were on. And this is me over here sawing a log at scout camp. This log was in the middle of our camp, and I wanted to get rid of it. And so I spent the entire week sawing it in half and got blisters on my hands and everything, just so we could get rid of the log from our campsite. This just illustrates from my young childhood that I was a little bit of a risk taker, which, by the way, as an entrepreneur, you're going to take a few risks, and then just hard work and being diligent there. So the timeline that I was just telling you about in 1999, home sales connection, all the way through. I went to work for Warnock's by Owner, started Red X in 2003, sold Red X, started FSBO Leader in 2005, and then over the time, it's really the same company, but you can just see that in 2008 we changed our name. We had diversified, and so we changed our name to Humanized, and then we bought LandVoice. By the way, LandVoice, actually, Warnock's by Owner changed their name to LandVoice, and so I ended up buying my old company back in 2010. The owner was done. He had made a lot of money doing his forced sell by owners, and I actually ended up buying his company. I really bought the assets. I bought the customer base because I wasn't interested in the technology. The technology was old and dated. What I wanted was the customer base because I had the new technology that I wanted to use for that. And then just recently, last year, we ended up changing our name to Domega. And Domega is short for Domega Mega Rotabyte. It's kind of a mouthful. It's a scientific term for data storage, like a megabyte or a terabyte. But this is a Domega Mega Rotabyte. It's the biggest term of storage ever coined by the world of science, right? It's a huge amount of data that we're talking about here. All the data, the history of the world that's ever been produced, including the spoken word from inception all the way through today. You can fit like 1 trillion Domega Mega Rotabytes reverse that. A zettabyte of data, you can get all the data in the entire world, the history of the world, and you can fit it into something like 32 zettabytes. And there's 1 billion zettabytes in 1 Domega Mega Rotabyte. That's how big that is. We thought Domega Mega Rotabyte was a little bit too much of a mouthful, and the URL was a little long and clumsy, so we shortened it to Domega. It's a lot better, rings off the tongue a little bit easier. So that's kind of the quick rundown of how I got to where I'm at today. So the next lesson in getting from home sales connection in 1999 to Domega is first. So this is lesson number 3. Do something that you love. Remember, as an athletic trainer, I didn't love it. It wasn't something that I saw myself doing long term. If you don't love something, why are you going to do it? Why are you going to spend your valuable time doing it? And so I did something that I loved. And as an entrepreneur, believe me, there's enough valleys. So there's the peaks and the valleys. There's enough valleys with it that if you're not doing something you love, you're not going to do it long term. And so make sure that you're doing something that you absolutely love to do. Number 4, always be on the lookout for opportunities. I never would have been able to get to Domega if I hadn't taken advantage of all these opportunities along the way. Now, I say that, though, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because if you go after every single opportunity out there, if you're chasing squirrels all day, you're not going to get anywhere. And I've done my fair share of that as well. A lot of opportunities have come our way, and I've done a lot of them, and you could, Tamara can vouch for this, and a lot of them have failed along the way. Had I just been able to stick to what I knew was going to work and do what I do best, this could have been sped up quite a bit. But there are still opportunities that you have to be prayerful about and discuss with your spouse about to see which ones you want to go after. And so I was talking to I have an advisory board, and I definitely recommend, if you're going to start a business, have an advisory board, some people that you really trust. And I was talking to them a little bit, and they kept saying, Jake, stop going after squirrels. And they said, if you're going to go after something, go after the polar bears, something much bigger. And I said, I don't know the difference. How do you know what the difference is between a polar bear and a squirrel? And the advisory board said, well, the polar bear is going to have dollar signs following it. So go after what's going to be able to create that revenue for you, right? For a company, you've got to have the revenue in order to make it work, right? When I was a little boy growing up, as much as our family was service oriented, we wanted to help other people. When you're just trying to put bread and food on your table, it's really hard to go outside of that zone and help others. When you are successful at business, or at being a dentist or a doctor or a musician, a vocalist, whatever it is you're doing, and you're successful at it, then you're able to not only provide for your own family, you're able to then reach out of your zone and provide for others. The fifth lesson that I have throughout my timeline here is the ability and the stomach to be able to risk everything. Many, many times throughout my career, I have risked everything. I've put my house on the line in order to get the capital to do the business, to meet payroll, to do those things. As an entrepreneur, it's really difficult to get where you want to be without taking on a few risks. And for me, it's easy. I've been a risk taker my whole life. As an entrepreneur, what you really need is your spouse, and you want your spouse to be able to take those risks with you. It's essential. If she or he is not willing to do that, it's going to just cause issues and problems. And so I'm obviously very, very grateful that I have a spouse who is a risk taker just like me. So we're two peas in a pod there. Okay. So have a great idea. When you have a great idea and you go to your wife or your spouse, she's heard this a million times. Hey, baby, I've got a great idea. And it gets to the point now where we almost laugh every time I come to her and say, hey, how about this? What do you think of this? And so we have some good discussions about this. I'm often asked as well, how did I fund this little enterprise? How did I get from home sales connection all the way through? And I mentioned that a little bit, where I've talked about where I've bootstrapped the company and I've gone and gotten a second mortgage out on my house, or I used credit cards to do this. In my opinion, and funding is a funny thing, everybody has their own little opinion about each. You ask different entrepreneurs, you're going to get different answers. For me, I wanted to hold on to as much equity as possible for as long as I could. And that means bootstrapping and doing everything in my power not to have to go get outside funding and investment in, because every time you do that, you're giving up more and more equity. Every time you give up equity, you give up control of your company. You give up some of the autonomy that you have and that you work so hard to get. And so you hold on to it as long as you can, build it as much as you can without bringing on any outside resources or funding. And then there might come a time when you'll know the company's growing by leaps and bounds, and it's time to bring in some money, some venture capital money, and that's fine. You can do that. So, a couple lessons learned as well. So one thing I learned just a couple of years ago that I wish I would have known early on, and that is to have a vision and to lead your company with that vision. Jim Collins talks about this quite a bit in his book, beyond entrepreneurship. In fact, he wrote that book before Good to Great, Built to Last. It was one of his first books, back when he was going by James Collins, by the way. So Jim Collins writes this book. He talks all about vision and the 3 parts of a vision, which are purpose, values, and mission. And you want to make sure you have that. You want to make sure that you start with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey, make sure you know what the vision is. Where do you want to end up? What's your purpose? You've got to have that purpose, and it can't be, oh, I just want to go make $1 million. That's not a purpose that others can get behind. You might be able to get behind that, but when you start attracting employees and executive teams, they need to be able to get behind a purpose. A purpose, Jim Collins explains, is like a guiding star that's out there. It's not something you're ever going to achieve. It's not a goal that you set, right? A purpose is just that guiding star. For us in our company at Domega, we empower achievers to create abundance. That's our purpose. We hire and fire according to that purpose. We make every decision according to that purpose as well. We have a mission. A mission is more like a peak, right? If you think about a mountain climber, you're going after that peak. You still have the purpose that you can see, right? That guiding star, but a peak is something you can actually accomplish. It's a 3-year BHAG. A BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal. So you set your sights 3 years ahead. Where do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? And you set that mission, right? And then you have your values. The values becomes your culture, becomes who you are as a company. And then you set your values. And in our company, we have four values: optimism, passion, innovation, diligence. Those are the 4 values that we have. And we hire and fire according to our values. If somebody comes in and applies for a job, and if they meet every qualification for that job, but they do not have one of those core values, we will not hire them. If you hire them, you're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be hiring B players, and what you want to hire are A players. B players steal time from your family. There's only so much time in a day, and if you're stuck at the office with a B player, they're taking time away from your family, okay? So that's Jim Collins. That's the vision. You want to set that vision. Okay. And then last but not least, you want to, as you're scaling and growing the company, you want to have fun and involve your family. And throughout the entire process, from start to end, you want to be having fun throughout. We have, in our office, occasionally have a 5 o'clock dance party. So we turn up the tunes, and then we get out there and dance. Not everybody does it. In fact, it's probably just me and one other guy. But it's fun. We do it. And we have we have a great culture, a lot of fun at our company. So just a quick review, and then I've got a video I want to show you as we close. The 8 lessons that I would like you to take home today. Number 1, be passionate. 2, be diligent. Number 3, make sure that you do something that you love. Look for opportunities. Number 4. Number 5, take risks. Number 6, use your own money for as long and resources for as long as you can. And then number 7, as an entrepreneur, lead with vision. And the key word there is lead. Make sure your employees, your team members, your executives are looking to you as their leader. Make sure that you're leading them. Lead, inspire, and reward. And then number 8 is have fun. My favorite quote of all time that just really exemplifies who I am as a person and what Domega is as a company is this quote by Theodore Roosevelt that I would like to read right now. Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered with failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows no victory nor defeat. Now, in our company this year, we, as you heard, my purpose is we help achievers. We empower achievers to create abundance. And we are looking for things that we can do to achieve this year. My question to you is, what is it that you're going to achieve? Are you going to start a company? Are you going to go and get your your degree and become a doctor, become a nurse, become a vocalist, become an artist, what is it that you want to achieve? You were all handed out a piece of paper that has our company vision on it. That's our vision, that's our mission, purpose, values on it. You were also given a little piece of paper that says achieve with a line after it. After the achieve, write in there, what is it that you want to achieve? That's your goal, that's your BHAG, that's your big, hairy, audacious goal. For me, I want to achieve the impossible. I want to share this video with you, and then we'll end. Optimistic, be passionate, be innovative, be diligent, and together we can achieve the impossible. Thank you.